Welcome to Storytime with Double O Kills. Today, we're going to be reading The Butter Battle Book by Dr. Seuss. Now, I've never read this book. I have no idea what it's about. I have no idea what butter battles await us. But I do know that my grandmother, who passed away at 102 and a half, always said everything's better with butter. So this book can't be that bad. All right. The first page does appear to be somewhat big time. The Butter Battle Book by Dr. Seuss. Trademark and copyright 1984 by Dr. Seuss Enterprises LP. All rights reserved under international and Pan-American copyright conventions. Published in the United States by Random House Incorporated, New York, and simultaneously in Canada by Random House Canada Limited, Toronto. Library of Congress catalog in publication data. Seuss Dr. The Butter Battle Book. Summary: engaged in a long-running battle. We're not going to read that summary. And the rest of it we're not going to say. And this book is for Audrey. With love. On the last day of summer, 10 hours before fall, my grandfather took me out to the wall. For a while he stood silent. Then finally he said, with a very sad shake of his very old head, "As you know, on this side of the wall are the Ukes. On the far other side of this wall live the Zooks." Then my grandfather said, "It's high time that you knew of the terribly horrible thing that Zooks do. In every Zook house and in every Zook town, every Zook eats his bread with the butter side down." Okay, now, normally small things I wouldn't quibble over, but that is atrocious. And I can't even imagine somebody doing that. Wow. But we Ukes, as you know, when we breakfast or sup, spread our bread, Grandpa said, with the butter side up. That's the right, honest way. He's right. Grandpa gritted his teeth. So you can't trust a Zook who spreads bread underneath. Every Zook must be watched. He has kinks in his soul. That's why, as a youth, I made watching my goal. Watching Zooks for the Zook-watching Border Patrol. Ukes are not Zooks. Keep your butter side up. Look at that. In those days, of course, the wall wasn't so high, and I could look any Zook square in the eye. Boy, he had quite a look right there. If you can, it's a pretty mean look he got going. I wouldn't mess with that grandpa. If he dared to come close, I could give him a twitch with my tufted, prickly snickberry switch. For a while that worked fine. All the Zooks stayed away, and our country was safe. Then one terrible day, a very rude Zook by the name of Van Itch snuck up and slingshotted my snickberry switch. Ooh, my goodness. That's mighty interesting look there. With my broken off switch, with my head hung in shame, to the chief Ukaroo in great sorrow I came. But our leader just smiled. He said, "You're not to blame, and those Zooks will be sorry they started this game. We'll dress you up right in a fancier suit. We'll give you a fancier slingshot to shoot." And he ordered the boys in the black room to figure and how to build me some sort of triple sling jigger. Wow. With my triple sling jigger, I sure felt much bigger. I marched to the wall with great vim and great vigor, right up to Van Itch with my hand on the trigger. I'll have no more nonsense, I said with a frown, from Zooks who eat bread with the butter side down. Van Itch looked quite sickly. He ran off quite quickly. I'm unhappy to say, he came back the next day, in a spiffy new suit with a big new machine, and he snarled as he said, looking frightfully mean, "You may fling those hard rocks with your triple sling jigger, but I also now have my hand on a trigger. My wonderful weapon, the jigger rock snatch 'em. We'll fling 'em right back just as quick as we catch 'em. We'll have no more nonsense. We'll take no more gup from you ukes who eat bread with your butter side up." "I have failed, sir," I sobbed as I made my report to the chief Ukaroo in the headquarters fort. He just laughed. "You've done nothing at all of the sort. Our slingshots have failed. That was old-fashioned stuff. Slingshots, dear boy, are not modern enough. All we need is some newfangled kind of gun. My boys in the back room have already begun to think up a walloping whiz-zinger one. My bright boys are thinking. They're on the right track. They'll think up one quick, and we'll send you right back." They thought up a great one. They certainly did. They thought up a gun called a Kickapoo Kid, which they loaded with powerful Puadoo powder, and ants' eggs, and bees' legs, and dried fried clam chowder. And they carefully trained a real smart dog named Daniel to serve as our country's first gun-toting spaniel. Then Daniel the Kickapoo Spaniel and I marched back toward the wall with our heads held up high, while everyone cheered, and their cheers filled the sky. "Fight! Fight for the butter side up! Do or die!" Wow, they really are taking this seriously. Well, we didn't do, and we didn't quite die, but we sure did get worsted, poor Daniel and I. Van Itch was there too, and he said that the old pig, "The boys in my back room invented this rig, called the 8-nozzled elephant-toted boom blitz. It shoots high explosive sour cherry stone pits, and will put your dumb Kickapoo Kid on the fritz." Poor Daniel and I were scared out of our wits. Okay, that's huge. And you see the Kickapoo Spaniel right there. Once more, by Van Itch I was bested and beat. Once again I limped home from the wall in defeat. I dragged and I sagged. My poor spirits were low as I thought that they ever could go, when I heard a boom-bah and a diddle-dee-dill, and our butter-up band marched up over the hill. The chief Ukaroo had sent them to meet me, along with the right-side-up song girls to greet me. They sang, "Oh, he faithful, believe in thy butter," and they lifted my spirits right out of the gutter. "My boy," smiled the chief Ukaroo, "we've just voted and made you a general. You've been promoted. Your pretty new uniform's ready. Get in it. The big war is coming. You're going to begin it. And what's more, this time, you are certain to win it." My boys in the back room have finally found how. Just wait till you see what they've puttered up now. In their great new machine, you'll fly over that wall and clobber those buttered down Zooks one and all. Those boys in the back sure knew how to putter. They made me a thing called the utterly sputter, and I jumped aboard with my heart all aflutter and steered toward the land of the upside down butter. This machine was so modern, so frightfully new, no one quite knew exactly just what it would do, but it had several faucets and sprinkled blue goo, which somehow would sprinkle the Zooks as I flew, and gum up that upside down butter they chew. Is that like blue goo goo now? Chewy, chewy, blue goo gooey? I was racing pell-mell when I heard a voice yell, "If you sprinkle us Zooks, you'll get sprinkled as well." Van Itch had a sputter exactly like mine, and he yelled, "My blue gooer is working just fine, and I'm here to say that if Ukes can go Zooks, you'd better forget it, 'cause Zooks can go Ukes." I flew right back home, as you may have guessed, I was downright despondent, disturbed, and depressed. And I saw just as soon as I stepped back on land, so were all of the girls of the Butter-Up Band. The chief drum majorette, Ms. Yuki and Sue, said, "That was a pretty sour flight that you flew, and the chief Yukaroo has been looking for you." They look, well, they've had better days. Clearly. Even the dog. I raced to his office. The place was a sight. "Have no fear," said the chief. "Everything is all right. My bright backroom boys have been brighter than bright. They've thought up a gadget that's newer than new. It is filled with mysterious moolakamoo and can blow all those Zooks clear to Salamagoo. They've invented the Bitsy Big Boy Boomaroo. You just run to the wall like a nice little man. Drop this bomb on the Zooks just as fast as you can. I have ordered all Ukes to stay safe underground while the Bitsy Big Boy Boomaroo is around." The tiny little package must pack quite the punch. As I raced for that wall with the bomb in my hand, I noticed that every last Uke in our land was obeying our chief Yukaroo's grim command. They were bravely marching with banners affluent down a hole for their country and right side up butter. Oh, I'm sorry. I misread that completely. They were all bravely marching with banners a-flutter down a hole for their country and right side up butter. I was like, that didn't rhyme at all. Yikes. That's when Grandfather found me. He grabbed me, he said, you should be down that hole. And you're up here instead. But perhaps this is all for the better somehow. You will see me make history. Right here. And right now. Grandpa leapt up that wall with a lopulous leap, and he cleared his hoarse throat with a bopulous beep. He screamed, "Here's the end of that terrible town, full of Zooks who eat better with the butter side down." And at that very instant, he heard a clup-clup of feet on the wall, and old Van Itch clupped up. The boys in his back room had made him one too. In his fist was another big boy boomaroo. "I'll blow you," he yelled, "into pork and wee beans. I'll butter side up you two small smithereens." See, they both have on the wall. "Grandpa!" I shouted. "Be careful, oh gee! Who's going to drop it? Will you or will he?" "Be patient," said Grandpa. "We'll see. We will see." And that's the end. That's the end. Clearly, this was inspired by the Cold War. If ever there was something. And I don't know how many of you out there were around during those times. I remember as a kid That was towards the end. I remember the Berlin Wall coming down, which was huge. I didn't know how huge at the time, but I remember it. But the standoff and the escalation and the mutually assured destruction in order to ensure peace, which to some degree keeps people at bay. But at the same time, it's a dangerous way, because you have the potential for mutual destruction. And while I support having a strong military, having a strong country, and pride in your country too, I don't support looking down on others just because they're different than you. The truth of the matter is what we've said here before. It's important to love everyone. No matter what, no matter who they are or what they do or what they think or anything else, and that's what I do. I have to say that it's okay to have your differences with people. It's okay to disagree. It's okay to even, sometimes a fight or an argument breaks out and you hash out your differences and you come to a solution and you bury the hatchet and you're done, right? But it's not good to hold on to bitterness. That grandpa held on to bitterness forever. They went from generation to generation, creating that bitterness. And that's no good. You got to let that kind of stuff go. You've got to forgive. You've got to understand that not everybody's the same as you, and that's a good thing. It's a good thing. And so I guess that's that. There was no real answer or solution to the story because I think at the time that book was released, there was no real answer or solution that existed. Eventually communism crumbled, it imploded because communism and socialism don't work. They don't work in a situation where you can't have somebody who gets regardless of doing. And you don't get people to engage and try and work for something that's not theirs. People just don't do it. Sad but true. That said, it does not mean that we hate people because they're different. Oh, absolutely not. We love people in spite of their differences. We love people in spite of their disagreements or different viewpoints, and you might think they're wrong. I've said this many times before. It's okay to say, you're wrong. I think you're wrong. I don't agree with you. I believe that's not correct. But free will has to exist as well. We've been down that road before. So I guess the moral of the story is, just because somebody's different doesn't mean that they're bad. If they're bad, that would mean they're bad. But different doesn't mean bad. It just means different. And you should love people no matter how different they are. I love everyone, or I attempt to, regardless of how different they are, regardless of how much I agree or disagree with what they do or think. Doesn't matter. I love, because you need to love people. It's important. And with that, I love you, each and every one. And I thank you for being here. I hope you've enjoyed Double O'Kill's Storytime.